Hello and welcome back to another daily cribbage. Today we're against Carol. Look at that adorable little doggy. Well, this week has not been going well for us in terms of scoring well in our cribbage games, but maybe we just need to have a little bit more fun with it. So what do we want to do here? What's the most fun thing? Well, we got a nice flush, but we could also throw away 2 king. I like 2 king here. Mostly because we keep the ace 4 and we get to lead a 4. The idea is if our opponent pairs our 4, we get to play our 7 on top. So double 2, 3, maybe a 4. No, an ace. They get the pair at the end. So scoring 5 points on the play is pretty good for our opponent. And having a double run is also pretty good. So we're off to the standard start. Nothing to worry about. Got double 5-10 in hand. Double 5-10 is really strong. We could throw away 6-8 or 2-8. I think we'll throw away the 6-8 and just get some 7s. It's sometimes as simple as that. You just get a 7 in the crib. We're going to play a 2 here with the hope of playing on top of our opponents. Getting our 5 to make a 15, but that didn't happen. So no worries and nothing in the crib. Okay. The computer actually likes the 2-8 a little bit more than the 6-8 in this case. 2-8 it says is or 5-5-6 queen. I guess it wanted to hold out for those fours that can get cut, and we did cut a 4, so we did miss out on a little bit of value there. We leave the 3. If it gets paired, then we can go for the 9. If our opponent plays 9, we're enough behind that we just take these 2 points. We're going to play a 10. And our opponent has a 5, so lots of value there for our opponent. That looks like 7 points, 8 points. The run gets extended by the 8. So we're behind by 19 points. And this hand offers us a few ways to try and catch up. We can hit a few double runs. We could throw away 4 king to keep the double run through the 9 open. I think I'm just going to go with, I'm going to go with the 4 king. We get an ace on top, which is really nice. Opponent leads a 4, which is not so nice. If our opponent plays an ace here, then we're expecting our opponent to have lots of points here if they have another queen. But a 5 actually doesn't help so much. It's only 8 points. If they had another 10 instead of the 5, then it would be 10 points or 12 points if it's a queen. Peter prefers throwing away the 6-9, but does make her hand a little bit harder to play. Okay, and this is a nice simple one. When you see 12 points, it's hard to say no. The opponent has a tough decision, it seems. Okay, we improved to 24 points. This is going to take us to 58. But, of course, the 5 on top is often good for the opponent, so we can't celebrate too much about this, especially considering how far behind we are. Opponent almost makes it to 70 points on the dealer. And indeed, that was one of our best hands. Okay, 4 on top does help our crib a little bit. And it's probably worth mentioning some of the other discards that were available here. And I misclicked. I was meant to play the 9 there, but that didn't happen. So we will keep going. We get get the last card there. Big flush for our opponent, 2 points for us in the crib and in our hand. Not too much going on. Here is a case where we can play safe in a couple of different ways. We can go 7 king, 9 king. I think we'll just go with the 9 king. Get an 8 on top, which is nice. We'll lead the 7. And we'll go make it up to 23. Invite our opponent to get rid of some of their lower cards, and they made it 26, so we get to score a few points. It only looks like 4 for our opponent's hand, which means that they're struggling a little bit until they threw away 7, 9 and hit an 8 on top. So we're also struggling a little bit now. We'd like to slow our opponent down. How can they slow down? I think we're going to just play the 6. This is extremely passive. Okay, so they could have anything here. They had the 3. So when I say my play was extremely passive, I mean that, if I was trying to be ambitious, then I could play the 15 and then hope for our opponent to play out another 10, and then we would get 31 with our 6. Okay, we'll make it up to 20. Very happy to see 9s and so on. And we'll play out the 2. Okay, in hindsight we played that in the wrong order, but I was a bit worried about our opponent having 2, so opponent gets a real big crib and a hand at the end, so we lose out there. Opponent got a lot of points on the play and in hand and in crib. I guess it hasn't been our week so far. Maybe we can turn it around next time. But for now, let's jump back and have a look at some of the key moments from this game. So this was probably our first mistake. This is a very standard spot. So we got 5, 5, 6, 10 in hand, and around that we've got 2 and 8. So 2 and 8 is good enough to throw into the crib, and keeping the 5, 5, 6 together means that we're ready to get some double runs if we get a 7 or a 4 on top. And it turns out we actually did have a 4 on top, so it would have given us a good chance to get back into the game. So I think this was the first missed opportunity. And another opportunity we had here, this is much later in the game. We kept a hand 5, 6, queen, king, and our opponent leads the king. We have many aggressive options here. We can make it 15 with the 5. We can pair the king with the idea being that a king was cut, so there are fewer kings left in our opponent's hand. All of these are pretty good, I think. Making it 15 is probably not the best because our opponent does have a lot of 5s of their own. And even if they don't, they can probably just play out a different card, not a 10, in order to avoid running into this 31 that we have through the magic 2-card magic 11 with 5, 6. Instead, I played out the 6 in order to avoid that particular line and then force our opponent to play out their 5 later on in the game, or later on in this play. The point being, if we play our 6, our opponent, let's say they've got 5, 10, 10 left, our opponent doesn't want to play their 6 on top because it'll make it 21, and then we'd be able to get 31 with one of our 10s. So they're going to make it 26 with their 10. We play our 5 to get 31, and then with 5 and 10 left, our opponent can't really score any points because if they play out their 5 first, we're going to get 15 with our 10, and if they play out their 10 first, then we're going to just play one of our own 10s, and they're going to make it 25 to get one go, and that's all they're going to get from the play. So playing the 6 here is a way of trying to stop our opponent from getting any points, trying to slow them down in any way possible. But these considerations only really work if you assume that your opponent has a strong hand. And at this point, we're in such a bad position that we can't assume that. If we start assuming that our opponent has a really good hand, then those hands we've already lost to, in a sense. We don't really have a good chance to beat those hands unless we get extremely lucky later on. And okay, so there are a couple of ways we could win this game. We could get lucky now, or we could get lucky later. Getting lucky later means that we get to draw a whole new set of cards, and we could just score really big. Or we should try and put some of our eggs in a few of these different baskets. We want to firstly assume that our opponent doesn't have the best hand that they could possibly have right now. And we want to make sure that we're doing as well as we can against as many of those hands that aren't doing so well. We want to capitalize. And the way that we do well against some of those hands is probably to just score points, as many points as we can right now. If our opponent has another king in their hand, then that means they've got triple king with the cut king, and so they've already got enough points to get past the positional milestone, and whatever else is in their hand might contribute another 2 points. So that's actually quite a good hand. I think playing the king here is extremely safe, and this is something that we should do immediately. So how do we recognize this? Well, we look at the score. We say our opponent is well ahead, they're about to make their milestone. We can't possibly beat the hands that have double king in them, so we can assume they don't have it, so we can pair the king. The other thing we could say, and I think is equally valid, is if our opponent has a 5 in their hand, they've already shown us 5 king and the cut king, which is 6 points. Again, that gets them to their positional milestone. We can assume they don't have that either, and that would justify playing the 5. And so this becomes a real difficult problem. It's a real head scratcher, this. Is it better to play the 5 or better to play the king? And I don't think that with any amount of I don't think you can definitively answer that. It's just an extremely hard problem. It requires you knowing everything about the game, and we are so far away from that you can't hope to answer that right now. So the best thing to do is to do a little bit of both and see what happens. And in this case, maybe we would play the king. Maybe we would think back to what we discarded and try and work out whether our opponent is more likely to have a king or a 5. But the margins are so small there, and that's not the main thing we're worried about. We're mostly worried about our approach, and our approach here is to think, which hands are we really beating? So I hope that was useful, and I will see you in the next one, and hopefully we'll have at least one win this week. That's the dream. All right. See you then, and bye for now.